Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න.
Pairs Chuti Pack රුපියල් 37ක වාසියක්. දැන් රුපියල් 145යි.
Halloween crush. Over 150 die in a South Korea Halloween partygoers stampede, plunging the state into mourning in the worst disaster since 2014. One Sri Lanka committee to look into how best the Tamil community of hill country origin can be better integrated with the Sri Lankan society.
Some have done so successfully, others have been unable to do that. So we should help them.
Strengthening ties. There is more space for both Sri Lanka and Turkey to develop bilateral ties, says Turkish envoy to Sri Lanka, while the Minister of Environment invites Turkish investors to explore investments in the island nation.
My sincere conviction is that there's still much room to further develop our bilateral trade and commercial ties.
I wish to extend an invitation to Turkish top companies or business entities to look for Sri Lanka as part of their expansion strategy.
More rains. Department of Meteorology warns of heavy rains within the next 36 hours.
We expect this condition till 3rd November.
All this and much more coming up tonight, this Sunday, the 30th of October, 2022.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a warm welcome. Joining you tonight on First at 9, I'm Indivari Amuatha. A Sri Lankan national is among the more than 150 who died in a crush at a Halloween celebration in Itaewon in South Korea, plunging the entire country into a state of mourning. 82 persons who were reportedly injured are currently receiving hospital treatment. South Korean officials say the death toll may increase further. The Sri Lankan Foreign Ministry confirms that the Sri Lankan victim is found to be a resident of Kandy, and according to the Sri Lankan Bureau of Foreign Employment, no further information has been received of any other Sri Lankans affected by the stampede. Following this tragedy, the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol announced a national mourning period which will last through Saturday, November 5th.
Last night, an estimated 100,000 people came to Itaewon, one of the most popular neighborhoods in Seoul, for a night out to mark the first Halloween since the start of the pandemic, where gathering sizes were not limited and people did not need to wear masks outside. At around 10:20 p.m. South Korea time, a crush appeared to have started in a narrow sloped alleyway that was overcrowded with people. Pictures and videos on social media showed that the alleyway was so densely packed where people were unable to move and struggling to breathe, resulting in the large number of fatalities, plunging South Korea into a state of mourning. Bodies were lined up along the street covered in blankets and others were carried lifeless into ambulances. Members of the public desperately administered CPR to those who were lying unconscious, along with hundreds of emergency workers who were sent in from around the country to help. Out of the 153 dead, most of them were teenagers or in their 20s. 20 were foreign nationals from Iran, Norway, China and Uzbekistan. South Korean officials expect the death toll to rise. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri confirmed that a Sri Lankan national is among the dead. The deceased is identified as a 27-year-old from the area of Udatalawinna in Kandy. He had been employed in South Korea for around 2 years and has recently visited Sri Lanka for a short stay but returned to South Korea just 1.5 months ago. However, the Sri Lankan Bureau of Foreign Employment said the 27-year-old had travelled to South Korea as a student and not for foreign employment. Quoting information received from the Sri Lankan Embassy in Seoul, the SLBFE said that the deceased had been staying in South Korea on a refugee visa. According to the Bureau, no other information has been received so far that there were any other Sri Lankans among the injured or affected in the stampede. The Sri Lankan mission in Seoul is reportedly in touch with the police and hospital authorities in Seoul for further details. As it stands, this is the deadliest disaster in South Korea since 2014 when the seawall ferry sank, killing more than 300 people. After holding an emergency meeting, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol ordered a task force to be set up to help treat the injured and declared a period of national mourning. He also launched an investigation into the cause of the crash. Following this tragedy, President Ranil Wickremesinghe extended his deepest condolences to the government and people of South Korea, especially the families of the deceased.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe expresses his gratitude to India and its expat community for their assistance to Sri Lanka during the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis. The president made these remarks at the Diwali celebrations organized by the Colombo Expats Cultural Association in Colombo yesterday.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe graced the Diwali celebrations organized by the Colombo Expats Cultural Association in Colombo yesterday. The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, was also present.
I have said that India and Sri Lanka are two sides of the coin. There are differences in culture, religion, and there are commonalities. Diwali is one of the commonalities that we all enjoy. So Diwali naturally brings us together, whole of the Indian subcontinent. But this Diwali festival is no longer a festival only of India, Sri Lanka and others in the subcontinent. Today it is an international festival. From the American president downwards, they all know what Diwali is. And that is an achievement for all of you. I must say, I was following your activities. So all I can say is that in a moment of darkness in Sri Lanka, you are one of the lamps that have been lit. So thank you very much for all you have done.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says a committee will be appointed to look into how the Tamil community of the upcountry origin can be better integrated with Sri Lankan society. During a meeting with the members of the Ceylon Workers' Congress, President Wickremesinghe said that the importance of improving the plantation economy should also be highlighted. During this meeting, President Wickremesinghe accepted a consignment of medicines donated by the Pondicherry Union Territory and the Indian people on the request of the Ceylon Workers' Congress at the Presidential Secretariat.
A meeting between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the Ceylon Workers' Congress was held at the Presidential Secretariat this morning.
Firstly is to appoint a committee to look at how we can integrate further the people, the Tamils of hill country into the Sri Lankan society. Some have done so successfully, others have been unable to do that. So we should help that. Secondly is also how are we going to revive the plantation economy. As people are educated, more and more people will leave the plantation areas and we have to find jobs for them as well as other Sinhalese and all who are and Muslims who are leaving their village areas elsewhere. But there will be also a group that will live in the plantation. So we have to look at their future in the plantations, improve the plantation economy. We cannot have people living at subsistence level. So these are the two issues which we will handle in the coming year as we resolve the overall ethnic problem of Sri Lanka.
Meanwhile, the Tamil Nadu Fishermen's Association held protests against Sri Lanka Navy over the recent arrest of Tamil Nadu fishermen by the Sri Lanka Navy in Sri Lankan waters. The protesters urged the central and state government to take action to find a permanent solution for fishing in the traditional fishing areas, Gulf of Mannar, Pork Bay and the Bay of Bengal waters, as these waters continue to suffer from encroachment. Families of victims and other fishermen participated in large numbers and raised slogans to emphasize their demands. On the 26th of October, Sri Lanka Navy apprehended 7 fishermen from Rameswaram during a special operation conducted by the Sri Lanka Navy and Coast Guard in Sri Lankan waters off the northern coast, where these Indian fishermen were found poaching in Sri Lankan waters. Now, on top of foreign exchange constraints to secure fertilizer required for cultivation in the current Maha season, Sri Lanka continues to feel the challenges of Ukraine's suspension of fertilizer exports. However, with USAID donation of 36,000 metric tons of fertilizer to Sri Lanka, Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaraveera mentioned that the stock of fertilizer will be provided to farmers free of charge at the start of the upcoming Yala season. The Maha season cultivation period from September this year ends in March next year, while the Yala season is effective during the period from May to end of August.
The first ship carrying 12,500 metric tons of urea fertilizer required for paddy cultivation in 2022 and 2023 Maha season arrived at the port of Colombo from China on Wednesday. The stock was purchased from a $110 million loan obtained from the World Bank to procure the fertilizer required for the Maha season. Meanwhile today, unloading of the fertilizer stock began at the Colombo port. Addressing media, Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaraveera assured that ample stocks of urea fertilizer are available to meet the Maha season requirements as directed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
රාජ්‍ය පොහොර සමාගම් දෙකෙන් තමයි මේ සියලු බෙදා හැරීම් කටයුතු සිදු කරන්නේ. ඒක බඩිරුඟු වගා කරන ගොවීන් වෙත පොහොර ලබා දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය පොහොර දැන්ටමත් ඒ ප්‍රදේශවලට පොහොර යොමු කරලා තිබෙනවා. අපි ඒ ගොවීන් ජනතාවගේ ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා ඒවා බඩිරුඟු වලට වගා කරන්න පටන් ගන්න. මොන ප්‍රදේශවල ප්‍රමුඛතාව ලබා දෙන්නේ පොහොර. පළවෙනියට මේ පොහොර යවන්නේ මඩකලපුව සහ අම්පාර තිරිකුණාමලේ ප්‍රදේශවල කලින් වගා කරන්නේ. වගා කරන ප්‍රදේශවල වගා කරන පිළිවෙල අනුවම යවනවා. සහනාධාර ක්‍රමයට මේ වතාවෙත් පොහොර ලබා දෙන්නේ අපි රුපියල් 10000ට ගොවි ජනතාවට.
Now, the Department of Meteorology warns of low-level atmospheric disturbance to develop in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, enhancing the current showery condition over the island. In a general weather forecast issued for the next 36 hours, the Met Department warned of even thunder showers to the northern, northeastern and north-central provinces.
The general public is requested by the Meteorological Department to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers expected within the next 36 hours. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology also issued an advisory for heavy showers, strong winds and rough seas until tomorrow. The advisory went on to warn that due to the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, there is a high chance of thunder showers associated with active cloudiness in the sea areas of the coast extending from Batiklu to Putlam via Trincomalee, Kankasanture and Mannar. The Met Department also highlighted the high possibility of heavy showers and thunder showers and sudden roughness associated with the increase of wind speeds in the deep and shallow areas of the sea. Naval and fishing communities are requested to be vigilant.
Low-level disturbance has developed in the vicinity of Sri Lanka. So showery condition over the island has enhanced. From today onward, we expect this condition till 3rd November. We expect showers during the evening, but northern and eastern provinces showers can occur at any time of the day. But remaining parts of the island, there's a higher probability of occurrence of evening thunderstorms. Heavy falls above 100 millimeter also likely at some places in northern centre, Sabaragamuwa and Gol, Matara and Kalatara districts. We expect this enhancement till 3rd, but after that we only expect some sort of temporary reduction because October, November is usually we receive like 30% of our annual rainfall. So again we can expect some sort of enhancement on 6th November.
And Sri Lanka is to hold crucial talks with creditors on the 3rd of November. We spoke to the State Minister of Finance. Details after this break.
අයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයියා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමෝතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino Cement Roofing Sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
Big 3.
Welcome back to the news. Turkish Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Demet Sekuloglu, points out that there is more space for both Sri Lanka and Turkey to develop bilateral ties. She made these comments while addressing an event to celebrate the 99th Republic Day of Turkey. Addressing the same event, Minister of Environment Nazir Ahmed invited Turkish investors and companies to explore investment opportunities in Sri Lanka.
An event to celebrate the 99th Republic Day of Turkey was held in Colombo yesterday under the patronage of the Turkish ambassador to Sri Lanka, Demet Shekashioglu.
While being a member of NATO and European Council and negotiating country with the European Union, Turkey also aspires to strengthen her cooperation with Asian countries in a more comprehensive and systematic way through Asia a New Initiative, one of many components of Turkey's multidimensional foreign policy. Sri Lanka is considered as a valuable partner and friend within this new initiative launched in 2019. In fact, my sincere conviction is that there's still much room to further develop our bilateral trade and commercial ties, and we are committed to work to this end.
In our 74 years of diplomatic relations, Sri Lanka and Turkey need to see many more positive developments in a wide spanning cooperation, as well as areas like tourism and investment in the forthcoming period. We need a joint action plan to increase tourism, investment, cultural ties, people-to-people contacts, and the trade volume in upcoming years to benefit people and businesses in both countries. There is the need to revitalize trade between the two nations, as the current trade volume, which was around $180 million in 2019. However, we certainly could do more considering the long-standing friendship, brotherhood, and closeness between the two nations and governments. We invite Turkish investors also to explore Sri Lanka's investment opportunities in a wide variety of sectors. I wish to extend an invitation to Turkish top companies or business entities to look for Sri Lanka as part of their expansion strategy in South Asia.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe highlights that support rendered by the United States to Sri Lanka whenever Sri Lanka required and was in difficulty would never be forgotten. Speaking at the opening of the new building of the US Embassy in Colombo on Friday under the patronage of the Sri Lankan president, he also highlighted that measures have been taken to strengthen ties between the United States and Sri Lanka, which span over 74 years. President Wickremesinghe went on to say that Sri Lanka and the United States will work as close friends in the future as well, adding that the two nations, as inseparable partners, will forge ahead with respect and confidence in each other to persevere peace and democracy. Well, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semesinghe says he is confident that Sri Lanka will be able to get financial assurances from the creditors, which is a mandatory requirement to obtain the $29 billion bailout package from the International Monetary Fund. Speaking to AdaDerana, Semesinghe said IMF's assurance and assistance remains crucial for Sri Lanka to build investor confidence and to improve the country's credit ratings.
There are prior actions which the IMF is interested in completing. The main reason for it is to enhance the revenue of the country and to make sure Sri Lanka becomes a debt sustainable country. So everything possible to be a debt sustainable country, we will have to follow and make sure the necessary adjustments are being done. We know the recovery process is going to be very painful, and no government in Sri Lanka would like to put a burden on people. But however, we are compelled to increase our revenues because right now our tax revenue is around 8% of the GDP, which is a very low figure. Our main target would be to get the assurances of our bilateral creditors. The first meeting was held in Washington, where Japan, China, India and the other Paris Club members also were part of the meeting. So we are having the second round of negotiations or talks with the creditors on the 3rd. If we can get an early assurance, we can get an early approval in the IMF board. We are very confident that the way the discussions are going on, we should be able to get the financial assurances. But how soon, I am not able to tell right now. That we'll have to say after the meetings are held. As far as we know and we are experienced, for us to get assurances from our creditors, to create confidence among the investors and to get our credit ratings up, we need the assurance of and help and assistance of the IMF, so that we have to work towards it.
Russia has announced it is suspending its involvement in the internationally brokered deal that allows Ukraine to export grain from its Black Sea ports. It came after Russia accused Ukraine of massive drone attack on the Black Sea fleet in Crimea. Ukraine has not admitted the attack, and President Volodymyr Zelensky called the Russian move rather predictable.
Russia's Ministry of Defense said yesterday that it would halt participation, citing retaliation of Kiev's act of terrorism against Russian warships. Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that the Ukrainian armed forces launched a massive air and sea strike using unmanned aerial vehicles against ships and infrastructure of the Russian Black Sea Fleet at the naval base in Sevastopol. Russia also said that British operators helped Ukraine's military carry out the pre-dawn attack, adding that at least 15 drones were involved. The Ukrainian foreign minister said Russia was using the attack as a false pretext for blocking the grain corridor, which ensures food security for millions of people. Before the war, Ukraine and Russia accounted for almost a quarter of global grain exports until those shipments came to a severe halt for nearly 6 months.
That wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9 on AdaDerana 24. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Take care. Good night.